Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the Summer Innovation Series of 2025. This is our third iteration of the Summer Innovation Series this year, or our third session in this iteration of the series, I should say. And of course, just a quick overview of the Summer Innovation Series. It's a really good opportunity for all of you in attendance today to learn about lots of the innovative resources such as SBIR, STTR, and even still how some of these innovative landscapes play with other national or federal, I should say, organizations. We'll talk in this session with leaders from AFRL, Homeland Security, NASA Glenn, just to name a few. Each webinar kicks off Wednesday at 10 a.m. and lasts about an hour. Thereafter, of course, the very final session in the Summer Innovation Series is going to be an in-person event called the Small Business Resource Panel, where leaders across the state and small business resource programs will be able to visit with you and lead a discussion to explain what sorts of things they can do to help your small businesses right here at home. In today's session, we have a special treat for you. Of course, this session is called the Small Business Spotlight. And in that, we have guests today that are actually very familiar with the Ohio Apex Accelerator, in addition to lots of the innovative programs that we will and have talked about throughout the series. I'd like you to be able to meet with Green Water Solutions today, and I won't steal their thunder and tell too much about what this session is going to be. But of course, these three professionals have done tons of work in their business as far as developing cutting edge technology for water and critical infrastructure. And I would like them to provide some information on what their business does. This session, of course, will allow you to get a peek behind the curtain, as I like to say. You've heard from the leaders of several different resource programs and how they impact small businesses. Now it's an opportunity to hear from those small businesses directly. So with that, of course, you have the ability to drop a few questions for these guys in the chat function, as well as the Q&A here at the bottom of your screen as they tell you a little bit about their organization. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Al.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Al George. I'm the CEO for Green Water Solutions. Our operating company is called Green Water Services, and it is a wholly owned subsidiary of Green Water Solutions. And to my right is Sharon Yager. She is our Vice President of Marketing. And to her right is also Chaz Antonon, who is our President and Chief Operating Officer. So let us tell you a little bit about our technology and how we started this technology and where we are today. Basically, we are partners with the owner of the patent. This is a patented technology whereby we are able to infuse nanobubbles with ozone into bodies of water to treat for hazardous algae blooms, bacteria, toxins, and we're also able to reduce nutrients in the water column, nitrogen and phosphorus. And we started this out in 2019 with a very small unit. We did a test here locally in Mosquito Lake, and it turned out very well. Then we went down to Lake Okeechobee, and we did another test down there and a lock in Lake Okeechobee, and went very, very well. We were able to rid the lock of a mat of hazardous algae. And from there, we went to Lake Newport in Youngstown, Ohio, and cleaned out that lake in a matter of a week. We've also been working very closely with Ohio State University, the University of Florida, and NOAA. We've done a lot of testing with them, Grand Lake St. Mary's, mesocosm trials in Stone Labs in Put-in Bay. We've done a couple trials down in Florida with Martin County, doing work to show that our technology is effective in treating blooms and reducing the water columns of nutrients. In addition to that, we're able to kill the bacteria and pathogens that are in the water. Ozone is a very powerful disinfectant. It's been used for many, many years. And the difference between our technology and using raw ozone in some of these treatment plants that are around the country that use it is that ozone has a shelf life or a half-life of like 20 minutes or so. Our infused nanobubbles can live in or survive in a body of water for a week to 10 days. It will stay there until it comes into contact with a contrary biology or element, and it can clean we've had great success in cleaning water and keeping beaches open. As an example, we did a 3-month trial in Grand Lake St. Mary, which is just north of Dayton. And we had a beach there that was enclosed with a rock wall, and we put a curtain in, so it was like almost like a test tube. And we were able to keep that beach open all summer long for the most part. And there were 3 other beaches on that lake that had to be closed because of E. coli or microcystins. So the testing that was done for that was the third-party testing by the state ODNR, and showed that our technology was able to keep that beach open so that people can use it in a safe manner. We are third-party validated with Ohio State, University of Florida, and NOAA. They design the tests, they do the testing, and they do the reporting. We provide the tech, and we're the only company in the country that puts this type of ozone into bodies of water to treat them. We can also treat, effluent that comes from, chicken farms and egg farms, bad discharges that come out of some of the industrial complexes that, have to get that water into, back into the system. So we've been very successful. We are currently working with the IBWC and the EPA out in California to do a pilot in Tijuana River. And so we hope to be doing that pilot probably in the middle of September, and it'll go for 3 months. That water, the Tijuana River water, has been polluted severely because of human waste that's coming across the border from Tijuana. The water treatment facilities there do not have the capacity to treat all that water, and consequently, the water is very harmful to humans. It is causing H2S to be emitted into the air, and the neighborhoods, people that live around there are getting sick because of the H2S that's in the air. And our technology will do 2 things. One, we will kill that bacteria, and we will reduce the H2S in the air. It's a challenging opportunity, but we feel very confident that our technology will be very, very well received. And so that's kind of it. We are working hard. We've been doing this for 6 years. Our technology has evolved from a very small unit. We use trailers now. We're able to put 140 grams of ozone infused nanobubbles per hour into the water, and we've gotten some very, very good results. We haven't had a failure yet. So that's kind of a little bit about us, where we're going. We're hoping we can take this technology to a larger scale. And, who doesn't want clean water? Who doesn't want clean air? And we're on the cutting edge of that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon. She's going to tell you a little bit about our experience and our relationship with Apex here at Youngstown State.
Thank you very much, Al. My name is Sharon, and I am the marketing director, but I also was tasked originally with, once we started working with the government, okay, well, you have to have all of these requirements in order to work with the government. Had no background with this whatsoever, and it was very challenging. And we were lucky enough to have talked with someone from our local chamber, and they recommended that we reach out to the Apex Accelerator at Youngstown State University to help us navigate trying to make sure that we had all of the requirements filled to be able to do government work. So we went ahead and called out there, and we were connected with Scott Loveland, who has been incredibly helpful and just very accessible in terms of helping us with the basics of just like, these are the basic requirements, like a checklist of things you have to do to be able to work with the government. The first thing was trying to navigate the sam.gov site to make sure that we had a unique entity ID, and we got our cage code, and we would have to draft a capability statement. And these were all things that we had never heard of before, had no background with. And so it was, somewhat challenging to start doing it on our own. Once we started talking with Scott and, the accelerator at YSU, it became so much simpler to navigate the site, to make sure that we were filling everything out correctly, to just any challenge that we had, even just things about like, how long is a normal waiting period before you get a number? Should we, worry about this? Is there something else we need to address? Having them there to help us with all of that has really simplified the process and made us much more comfortable in trying to make sure that we are meeting all of these requirements. And then in addition to these, making sure we had the basic requirements, they have also been extremely helpful in a lot of other ways. They signed us up for the My Bid Match service, which goes out and finds relevant articles and jobs that are being put out for bid or for information by all these different government entities that would take us a tremendous amount of time if we had to, search them all out ourselves. By using the codes and the specific things that we look to do, they're able to go ahead and just send us all of these articles so that we can then go ahead and look at them, determine if there's something that we want to pursue, bid on if we have questions about them. So that has been extremely helpful for us in terms of, trying to figure out what jobs are out there and how we can find from all these different sites a smooth way to access the information that we would need to be able to bid. They've also introduced us to other companies that we might be able to work with, where there might be some synergy in terms of helping each other to grow as small businesses. There's, a lot that can be done there that could be for the benefit of both parties, and they've been great about connecting us with those kinds of people. This was a huge one, I know, when we were putting our bid together, being able to work with them with the structure of the bid and the best way to organize it and how the government would like for things to just be said or be addressed, so that we didn't have to take so many extra steps with clarification and with trying to make sure that we were doing things right. To have their expert help was invaluable to us to try to put together a bid. I think that would have been so much more daunting without their help. So, they've been really great for that. Basically just answering all of our questions. Every time we're not sure, it's like, we know we can go ahead and email or call Scott and be like, hey, how do we handle this? This is like, what is this situation? So being able to have that support when you're going into something that you're so unfamiliar with, like, trying to get government work, and there's so many like regulations and rules, and basically having them there as a support has really enabled us to feel a lot more confident in our dealings with the government and making sure that we have done everything we need to do, and that we are, fulfilling our end of the process, so that we are much more likely to be able to obtain this work going forward. So I think that's basically been our experience, and it's been a very good one.
Thanks.
Oh.
Chaz, you want to talk about the CRADA and how we've gotten introduced to that? And
Sure. So I think part of what we want people to understand for our business is the cooperative research agreement that we have with NOAA to be part of their CRADA, and the ability to have Dr. Peter Moeller work through the CRADA with Ohio State University and University of Florida to help validate what we actually are looking for in this research. So when you go out and talk to people about what the research or what the process can do and how it works, you've got some third-party credibility behind it. And it's not just us telling people what we think it'll do. We've got real scientists and research people who've worked on this for, well, the Cradle's over 5 years old now. So we've worked with Peter for a long time. And it's helped us to do two things. One, outside of validating the technology, we've also been able to improve the technology. Through this research, we're able to try different things, what works better, and how our machines have developed from day one when we first tried them at Mosquito Lake to what we use today, how we've gone from 30 grams per hour of ozone to 140 grams per hour of ozone safely and effectively, where it's actually good for the environment, leaves oxygen in the water, actually good for the non-target organisms in the fish. So a lot of this research has been, a lot of the questions that people asked, is it safe? Is it effective? How does it work? And I think all these research partners that we have been very helpful in doing that, so.
And one of the things too that we didn't mention is that this technology is very dynamic. It's just scalable. It's dynamic in that every body of water, every time we treat a different type of effluent or whatever, you have to think differently. And so we can make this, we can scale it up, scale it down, we can relocate machinery. And, you know, it's been very, very effective. And because of what we do with Dr. Peter Moeller and NOAA and, you know, Ohio State University, University of Florida, where they give us some critical feedback to tell us, you know, this is what you should do and how you should do it. You know, maybe you do it this way, it's better. And, you know, with dosing and stuff like that. So, you know, we feel like we're on a pretty good trajectory right now based on, you know, our experience and our work effort, and then also our partners like Chaz and Sharon have explained, you know, with Apex and the CRADA. Does anybody want to add anything else?
So other than just on that topic, we're going to be doing research for the Ohio State for the next 2 weeks.
Right.
So we're leaving Saturday to go to Put-in Bay, Stone Labs with the Ohio State team, and we're going to be doing more research about the technology.
So with that, we'd open up for questions if you wish.
Wonderful. And yes, please list any questions that you have for the Green Water team in the chat or Q&A function. And while you guys come up with or type in your questions, I had one or two on my own, if I may. First question I had was about the technology. Now, without revealing, of course, too much of your special sauce, I was curious about the like maintenance or like operations of that nano bubble nano NBI, I think is what I saw on your website technology, and knowing that it doesn't use chemicals and it kind of essentially leaves only oxygen behind as a byproduct, what kind of operational maintenance does that tech require? I'm thinking about like the manpower or monitoring as opposed to maybe alternative water treatment systems.
Just a real quick. So this is a self-contained unit, right? And we pull in air. We take the nitrogen out of the air, create oxygen at 96% roughly. That oxygen is fed into an ozone generator. Ozone is then dissolved into the water through a Venturi tube. We send the dissolved ozone back out and create the nanobubbles through the nozzle that we use. So from the beginning, when we first started this, and we had more maintenance problems than we knew what to do with. And since Al and I were the two people who were fixing it, we decided that we needed a better way to go. So we actually are treating a pond, and we started this Sunday afternoon, and the unit has run flawlessly since we started it up. So we're excited about that. It'll be hopefully less maintenance, and the machine, you know, they'll run. Now ozone is ozone, so it's going to create some issues over time. But you know, one of the things that Al and I usually and Sharon talk about is the real cool thing about this is all the water doesn't have to go through the machine. We don't really treat all of the water through the machine, right? You're getting the ozone goes out into the water. That's what really treats the body of water. So the water is just a mechanism to deliver ozone into the body of water to do the treatment.
It's like a
Nice.
gas. It's like a gas that goes into the water and, was it Brownian motion?
Brownian motion follows
Brownian
that
motion.
principle.
And it shoots it out like,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you had an aerosol spray in your room where you spray that and then it just pervades out throughout your room, that's what these nanobubbles do. And I tell people this all, it's my favorite thing, 256 million nanobubbles per milliliter. So
It's
if
a
you can
lot.
get your head wrapped around that, you're better than me, because that to me seems unbelievable, but that's really what's happening. And that's the research from Ohio State that we found. So these bubbles are so small, they're buoyancy neutral, they just pervade out throughout the water column.
And we are constantly surprised at how well this works. I mean, in every situation where we've applied this technology, it's been successful, and the degree of success has really been really wonderful to experience and because his hands and our hands have been doing all this work for this time, and a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of hard work.
How long have you guys from, I'd say, like inception, implementation to all these various, atmospheres now? How long have you guys been working on this project with the nanoblot technology?
Well, we started, 6 years. We started in 19 with a very small experimental unit, and then we have been, courting users and people who can sponsor the technology so that we can show how it works. And so, over the 6 years, we have actually developed it into a better, more stable operation, and more powerful and more mobile and much more efficient and reliable.
I think one of the things we should note is that, so we've done some projects in Florida. Florida has approved us and given us a continuing service contract. So we can do work anywhere in the state of Florida. They've approved the technology, they like the technology. So those are all things that help validate the effectiveness of what we're trying to do here.
Explain the next test that we're doing in Florida too.
So when we've done some of our projects, we've shown a reduction in nutrients. And what Florida wants to see is that reduction of nutrients on a larger scale. So what happens to the phosphorus and the nitrogen? Where does it go? So we have a project with Martin County that's going to be sometime toward the end of this year, where we're going to treat 2 ponds, and we're going to be able to show on a bigger scale, validate that reduction of phosphorus and nitrogen. If you can do that, you do 2 things, right? You get rid of all the algae, but you can treat ahead of time, so you never get that algae bloom.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
really cool stuff.
Yeah, and the byproduct of the technology is that it leaves the water oxygenated. And
Mhm.
by doing that, it's the anoxic character of the water when that blooms that suck the oxygen out of the water, that causes more nitrogen and phosphorus to come up out of the sediment and back and feeds the bloom. It's like a terrible cycle. So we're able to stop that cycle and keep the water better, more oxygen in the water for the aquatic life.
That's very interesting. Now, I have another question for you that I would just be remiss if I did not ask. I understand the traditional route, so to speak, of DoD, SBIR, and of course technology transfer. You guys did something I consider a little bit unique in opting with NOAA and getting the CRADA. What is the difference, I guess, between those sets of programs, or and even still, why did you guys make the decision to go with a CRADA, I guess, as opposed to maybe the traditional SBIR sitter routes? And even still, you've probably done those things in the past. I'm unsure, but what's the difference between the two, and what led you to the CRADA instead?
So we went into the CRADA, excuse me. Dr. Moeller was already working on
Okay.
algae reduction out of NOAA. And he was looking, and he was testing various technologies, right? This is one of the technologies that he tested. And everybody who tried to do something like what we're doing, where you'll be able to make nanobubbles and get the ozone in there. So he was already doing this, so it made sense for us to talk to him and say, hey, we got this, we want you to test it. He did. He would now tell you that this is the only technology that he's tested that does nanobubble ozone technology that he's approved. So there
Wow.
are other technologies out there trying to do this, but they haven't been able to do it to the effectiveness that our company's been able to do with NWA.
And I think
Got it.
that's one of the most exciting things is that it's not just like us saying, oh, we've done a study or we have all of these third party verifications where they are very reputable organizations, scientists, and they're the ones who are actually saying, hey, you know what, this works, this is great, this is something that we support. And I think that that is a really strong you know, good in our court that a lot of these other companies don't have, or that it's something that can build a lot of trust. People aren't just taking our word for it. You know, you can talk to these institutions, these scientists, and they're the ones who are saying this works. This is a good science. So that's a huge plus for us.
And we tell people this all the time. You can Google Dr. Moeller and his credentials at NOAA. You can Google Heather Raymond. She's the director of the Ohio Clean Water Initiative out of Ohio State. You can Google Dr. Linda Weavers out of Ohio State, Dr. Dale Laughinghouse out of the University of Florida. Feel free to Google those people because their backgrounds are phenomenal. And the more people know about those people and what they do, you know, Heather, for example, was the United States representative to the International Harmful Algae Bacteria Council. So, I mean, you know, these are people that are reputable. They wouldn't put their name on this stuff unless they truly believed it, and they truly believe it, and they're going out, you know, Heather goes out across the world now and is doing presentations on this technology and why people should use it. So I would, you know, write those names down. If you have questions, we can send them to you, but they're great.
Awesome. I think that leads me into my next question here with you guys' ability to kind of establish those partnerships and even still identify, you know, a network of people that are working on, you know, very similar missions to what you guys are doing. So for small businesses and even still maybe municipalities, they have, you know, tighter budgets. What trials or pilot programs would you suggest to those people looking to break into the innovation space? Are there partnership models, financing options, or even versions of those that could lessen some of the upfront cost of engaging in innovation?
Right. Well, let me start this. I think a lot of what we've been able to do is once we found Peter and Heather and started having a relationship with them, they're finding funding through the Army Corps or an EPA or the Florida DEP where we can do some of these kinds of things. They actually came up with a lot of the funding to do the original testing. So from there, you know, now you start meeting with people from the EPA and they've got projects that they want to do, that they want to fund, and it kind of grows from there. But, you know, finding Heather, convincing Heather or Peter or Dale to be part of this was a big step in doing it. And, you know, as we build this, it kind of just grows from there.
And we're fortunate because this is really a cutting edge type of technology, and you know it's been so successful that they believe in it and they want to promote it. And you know Dale and Heather are not just national; they're international.
Sure.
And you know they were just over in Greece a couple months ago, or not even a couple months, a month ago, you know, talking to people about our technology and how it can be incorporated into other folks, uses. So you know. We're still young and we're still growing. You know, we hope to make this company a real mover and shaker in this industry of water remediation and making sure that water is safe for use for humans and animals alike.
I think for anybody who's got a new technology, you know, find somebody who is in that space and get to them. And if you've got a good technology, get in there and convince them of what you've got and get them to start doing tests and trials. And, you know, the more you do it, if you do it and it works and it's as good as you think it is, they're going to take this and go out in the world and show it off.
And just to talk about Apex again, if you have a technology and you're looking to get funding or to get started, if there's an Apex accelerator close to you, which I think they're all over the state, you know, reach out and ask them for help because they do have, you know, resources and the ability to help you with, you know, this is what we think would be the best path for you to get funding, to get grants. This is what you would need to do, you know, to be able to apply and qualify for those. So that's a great resource that people should take advantage of, so that they can look for, funding and support. And one of the best things about them was that, it was free. The help that they are giving to us doesn't cost anything. So when you're a small business and you don't have a lot of funds, having someone who's going to help you and do it for no charge, I mean, that is a huge, huge asset to have. And so I would definitely recommend that people, reach out to those Apex accelerators and, see what they might be able to do to help you.
Absolutely, Sharon. I completely agree, and not because I'm biased in any way of being affiliated with the Ohio Apex Accelerator, but we certainly offer free and confidential services to businesses that are engaged in any level of government contracting and looking, of course, to engage in the innovation space as well. And we would love to be able to partner with you and support your efforts, much like the continued success that Green Water has been experiencing. We're very happy to have been able to contribute to that in any ways. And let's see, I'm just going to check to
Can I
see
ask
if
you
we
a
got
quick
it.
question?
Yes,
What's that lighthouse behind you?
it is certainly a lighthouse in the state of Ohio. I can't remember exactly where it is,
Because
but
it looks like the
people,
one up at Put in Bay where we're gonna be this weekend. I'm staying in the lighthouse.
you're staying is like in this lighthouse.
If that's the one,
It probably is though. I've heard somebody else point this out as a Put-in Bay lighthouse, so I think you're onto something there,
We need
actually.
to Photoshop him into the window up there.
yeah,
He could be
I'll
waving.
take a
Just
picture and
wave.
send it to you for the next one.
That would be awesome. I would definitely, yeah, if you send me a picture of you up there waving, I'll definitely go ahead and change my background to that. That would be really cool. Well, I'd like to thank you all again for your time this morning. I really appreciate you sharing your story about your innovative technology, your relationship to Apex, and all the great things that you've done both in Ohio and even still your testing in Florida. Of course, if anyone would have any questions for this group, I will certainly drop their website in the chat so that you can reach out to them, read more about their story as well. And with that, I would encourage you all also to stick around for next week's session. We will be meeting with a leadership from the Air Force Research Labs to learn more about their innovative technology programs and how they can support as well. Perfect timing. We're going to go ahead and swap. So thank you all
Yeah,
from
thank
Green
you.
Water
Thank
Thank
Solutions.
you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, Stefano.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. Your timing was perfect. We actually just finished up with Green Water Solutions Group, so I'll be able to kind of tag you in here. And I know that Vitruvian, of course, has been working on a ton of cutting edge technology as far as kind of redesigning the way that we think about construction in today's day and age. And so, with that, of course, we have a few audience members today that would be very interested to hear about your story and how you have been leveraging some of the innovative programs and resources to bring Vitruvian to light.
Fantastic. Yep. No, I appreciate the shout out, Daisha, and definitely the way that we think about construction is we're doing things a little bit different. And I think that a part of, let's say, of the reason I am inspired to be in this industry is because of how the industry has been doing things the same way for such a long time. So it's an industry that's not very, let's say, prone to innovation, right? And so being able to come in and work with new technology that has definitely its advantages. It also comes with, I would say, its pushback as well. So being able to present this technology in a way that makes people feel included is a big part of the way that we want to do things. Oh, you disappeared there for a second. Um, so, DJ, if you feel like it's appropriate, I think I would like to make an introduction of Vitruvian and then kind of a transition into how we've been leveraging, again, like government programs.
Absolutely. Yes, please. I will go ahead and turn off my screen in case you are going to share yours.
Amazing. No, I think would love to just share some words. There's three buckets of work that we're doing. The first one is on the technology front. So we've established here in Athens, Ohio, and we've been able to bring two advanced pieces of machinery. The first one is the Scorpion concrete 3D printer. The concrete 3D printer, we are using it to build exterior walls of homes, as well as let's say like infrastructure. So we've been looking at some work with the Department of Defense where we see an interest in sewage junction boxes, in tactical bridges, and infrastructure that is really hard to place when you're in an expeditionary environment. On the commercial side, we're mostly focused on small residential and small commercial. So at the moment, that's one of the machines that we're working with. Another of the machines that we have brought in is the Mantis. So the Mantis is a 6-axis robotic arm with a extruder attached to it that prints with composite. So this is like a large version of your, let's say your traditional desktop 3D printer, but because it has a 6-axis robotic arm attached to it, it can do things that a traditional desktop 3D printer can't. 45-degree printing, non-planar printing, and we use this machine specifically to do interior design elements of homes. So you can think about furniture, tables, chairs, for example, are all things that can be done with the Mantis. That's the first bucket of work that Vitruvian is doing. The second is workforce development. And so our team is pretty lean. We are a team of 4 people here in Athens, and then broadly we have around 8 team members. But our team is fairly small, and we don't necessarily see ourselves growing into a huge construction company. Instead, we are inspired to come into a community and then teach local people how to use this machinery and make it their own, right? So we're very excited that over the past 6 months that we've been working here, we've been able to touch over 200 program participants that in some way, shape, or form have been able to interact with our workforce development program. Some of the highlights, are that at the end of the month, we're going to be training 10 adults. These adults are, half of them are traditional builders, so builders that use stick framing, and they have their own, let's say, like building business. We're bringing them in, training them, and with the hopes that they'll be more comfortable with this technology and be able to use it, right? The other group of people that we're training, part of this 10 people, are members, apprentices, or already, let's say, graduated from the Bricklayers Union. So we're super happy to have built this relationship with the bricklayers. Bricklayers, they it took a minute to warm them up to the idea of doing things differently, but after they understood that the technology allows for the work to be safer and for it to be less laborious, is something that with an aging workforce is very important to them. The other aspect of us collaborating with the bricklayers that I didn't really expect it to be such a big part of the work that we're doing, and now it's essential, is that the bricklayers also have a really hard time recruiting. And with this technology, we have found that we have a whole new generation of people that are interested in being part of the construction industry. People that are digitally savvy, people that are intellectually and technically curious, are people that the bricklayers always had a hard time, bringing in. And so, whereas they, whereas they, at some point were able to recruit anyone and everyone. Now they have a little bit of harder time, again, because the new generation is maybe not as as prone to work with their hands. And so we are super excited to be using this as a tool to bring in people into the construction industry, because it's so needed. There is 500,000 jobs that are open, just in the construction industry. The Now how this is kind of like being reflected is, we have a partnership with a high school, local high school from here. It's called New Lexington High School. New Lex is having 40 kids participate in our workforce development program. We're going to be doing the same training that the adults are going to be doing, but instead of doing the 40 hours in a week, we're going to be doing the 40 hours spread through a semester. And so the goal is to, through these 40 hours, get them comfortable with the technology and bring them into the shop, have them actually use some of this. And then, the idea is that if they're interested in continuing to be part of the construction world, that the bricklayers can offer them full-time employment and kind of that stable job. And as our demand for jobs increases, Vitruvian's demand for jobs increases, that we can tap into the bricklayers, the people that we've already trained, and then bringing them into our job site so that we can dial in our workforce. And so, that's the second bucket of work that we're doing. And the third one is building. So we actually have 3 construction projects underway. One is a storage facility for Habitat for Humanity. The second one is 3 homes that we're building in Chansey for the Survivor Advocacy Outreach Program. And then the final one is a home for a private individual, private buyer. And I'm super excited that this work that we're doing is impacting the community, but it's also kind of attracting local people to say, hey, I do want a 3D printed home, and be able to create in Athens a business that can continue thriving the years that are coming. So that's a little bit about Vitruvian, kind of where we are and what is it that we're doing. And I think that in what is remaining of time, I would like to talk a little bit about the way that we have been able to leverage government programs. There's a couple of areas that I wanted to touch, but Daisha, do you feel it's appropriate to do this transition at this point?
Absolutely, yes. Go right ahead.
Fantastic. So I would like to say that the the grants the grants that are available at a federal level have different flavors to them, and a specific flavor that we've been able to really hone in is the SBIR program. So I was very fortunate to learn about the SBIRs right after graduating from the university, working in another company. I was able to win an EPA SBIR phase 1. And then from there, we've been kind of continuing to apply to grants. And as I transitioned to Vitruvian, I was able to bring all this knowledge into here. So we were super fortunate to have won Air Force SBIR phase 1, which is through a program called AFWorks. I do want to put out there that both the Apex Accelerator. So there's the Apex Accelerator, and then there's also Apex Parallax. Are amazing resources, same as YBI. To be able to get feedback on the grant itself, right? The process of writing a grant is needs to be a balance of technical, but also of emotional, right? You're ultimately persuading someone, to give you funding so that you can kind of do something that's exciting, that is innovating, that will have a ton of impact. And so the support that we've been able to receive from offices, again, like Apex and Apex Parallax, and our incubators and accelerator programs, and has been instrumental for us. So I definitely recommend to look into SBIRs, but also make sure that you're arming yourself with as much support as you can. Ultimately, the mentorship and the people that have already been through this process several times have insights that are invaluable. Going at this by yourself is quite a task. So no, that's one area that I wanted to touch on. The SBIR programming itself. As we won the Air Force SBIR phase 1, that Air Force one specifically has a business development, let's say, flavor to it, whereas most other SBIR programs, you're actually doing R&D and research work as you are kind of progressing through the grant. And so I do want to put it out there that for this AFWorks, as we were kind of navigating, the goal of the AFWorks phase 1 is to get a signed MOU, right? Or actually, they call it a customer memorandum. And this is basically someone from the Air Force that has to kind of give you a signed document saying that they are interested in your technology and they do want to see it piloted in some way, shape, or form in their facility, in their base, or kind of watch it being developed and deployed. And so in our quest, I'd say, to find this signature, we went to a ton of trade shows that were defense focused. Some of those, for example, MILEM, the Military Additive Manufacturing Summit, was one that we were able to connect with some Air Force stakeholders, which then, from there, we built a relationship to eventually get the signature. But definitely talked to a bunch of people. We were knocking on everyone's door. We were sending a bunch of LinkedIn messages. We were doing a ton of outreach, and then really trying to understand, not, hey, kind of like, are they interested in buying this, or kind of how is it that we can kind of like give this to them? The approach was more, kind of what are the problems that they are experiencing, and how is it that maybe our technology can serve in order to address those issues. So very customer focused and client focused, to make sure that whatever we're proposing to them, before we even propose it, we know it's going to address an issue that they're facing. So I do also want to put out there that being able to kind of understand the customer, their problem, and kind of how your solution is going to address something that they're facing is huge, because they get solutions offered all the time. And so being able to have that close relationship is instrumental. Um, so that's what I wanted to share on the SBIR front, and on the, let's say, innovation and technology grant front. The other, let's say, bucket on that I wanted to share that has to do with government contracting has been a really that mention. I did want to give a shout out to the OPIC program, the Ohio Procurement Internship Program. We've been able to work with two interns this summer. One had previously participated in the OPIP program, and one had recently participated in the OPIP program. And these interns were able to give us a ton of insight on how to access information was really that we really didn't know the details of. So being able to understand where the money is being spent, and be able to kind of track this spending through spending.gov, and then be able to track the spending again, back to prime contractors, that and be able to understand, how those contractors then can be accessed, and the information that is available to us, through, like, again, these like public websites have been super helpful. And so definitely want to put it out there that programs where students are being taught government contracting, should not be slept on, specifically the OPIP. We've had a fantastic experience. Um, and so, that's, let's say, like another part of our experience that has been really grateful, that we're really grateful for. And the last thing that I wanted to also, mention on the government contracting side has been is more on our, let's say, like, general approach to grant writing. And on the grant writing front, something that it's kind of like a it's kind of tiring to restart from scratch when you have to kind of start a grant. And so I did want to share that something that we have been implementing that has worked really effectively for us is to be able to have all the data that we've been using, for our grants, instead of us having to kind of go and scavenge or and search at old grants for information. We now have everything organized in an Excel sheet, where all our data that is related to our key personnel is in one sheet. All of our data that is related to the problem that we're solving in traditional construction, it's there in another sheet. Everything that has to do with energy efficiency is in another sheet. And so being able to organize this data effectively, so that you're not going back to previous grants and scavenging through and kind of like starting from scratch, has been incredibly helpful for us. I think that's something that I would recommend, just because when it comes to grant writing, I mean, it just never stops. There's always grants available, and we end up having to let grants go because we just don't have the capacity to apply to them. And there's always going to be more things to apply to. And so the more that you can think about this process of, not, hey, how can I make this one grant perfect, but how can I make the process of writing grants, one that's very effective, and one that is not draining, let's say, you or your team, is super important. I think that we're in that stage where we're applying to grants on a pretty regular basis. Applying to grants, I'd say, at least once a week, and these grants can range from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars. And so being able to get into a flow where the process is more defined and the information is readily available, and that we are leveraging resources for checking some of these grants and how they're written, and be able to access the letters of support on time, has been something that has made my life easier. So I do encourage people to look at grants, not as, hey, there's this one grant that we want to apply to that is going to be really, that it's going to make us or take us to the next level. It's more of something that is constantly being done, and being able to kind of get on a flow of it is, I think, is kind of the best way of going about it. Yeah. I feel like I've been, chatting for a little bit. Do you think that this information that I've shared, kind of illustrates a little bit of what we wanted to kind of share with our
Absolutely.
listeners?
Absolutely. I think this was very helpful information. I especially like the background, of course, of your business relating to the not only the innovative things that you've done, but the I think innovative things you've done outside the technology space as far as a workforce development effort and some of your maybe community outreach programs and initiatives that you guys have set up as well. But that last bit that you brought up as far as not just applying for the or looking for the perfect opportunity for R&D, but making sure that you can maximize your ability to get some of those. So maybe not putting all your eggs in one basket, but getting really, really good at collecting baskets, so to speak. I think that was really powerful. I do have a few questions for you. And of course, if anyone else has any questions for Mr. Stefano, you can drop them in the chat or utilize that Q&A function there. I want to talk a little bit about maybe the value and the impact of your business and the technology that you guys have been able to develop thus far. First question, um, as far as single story homes, right? You talked about doing some stuff with Habitat for Humanity in the past, and of course that's an ongoing collaboration with your organization. What are maybe typical build speeds or cost metrics even for a single story home? Like I just say 1,000 square foot or so, and then of course, with the typical information, how do using multiple printers for homes maybe offset that or compare?
I like that question because I think that when people think about like cost, I think it's important that we compare like apples to apples, right? So on one hand, I don't think that and I'm very excited to get to this point where we have, let's say, honed in on efficiencies and we're able to offer a more affordable product. But I think at the moment we are focused on delivering quality products and products that are also delivered on a fraction of the time that traditional construction takes. So I think our price is pretty comparable. A number that I feel, let's say, like comfortable sharing is roughly $250 per square feet. Built like $250,000 for like a thousand square feet, let's say, like home, is a pretty typical price. I'd say when you're building a home, and we are around price parity there. Of course, there's a million things that come into construction. How hard is it to get to the site? Do you need to run water, electric, sewage? Is your foundation need to be like, you know, do you need to level the ground a ton, or is the land fairly flat? So there are things that are a little different with each build. But I would say that the bigger advantage of the technology that we're using is on the durability aspect of it and on the energy efficiency aspect of it. So a traditionally stick built home, it has a way shorter lifespan to it, especially in an area like this, in Athens and in general Southeast Ohio. It's extremely prone to floods, and so in this area is been hit, unfortunately, with a lot of these. And so every 10 years you have a ton of homes that suffer a lot of damage. And so being able to put forward durable concrete walls that basically, if a flood happens, you just get your walls washed. It's quite convenient. And the second part is the energy efficiency aspect of this, right? So our building envelope is extremely well insulated. And so the amount of electricity that you need in order to keep your house at let's say like room temp is way lower than traditional. I would say roughly about like your electricity bill should be 30 to 50% lower than if you would just be kind of running, let's say, traditional stick built home. And it's even the increase, you could probably see like a 50% decrease if you're comparing something like as a prefabricated home, or like a mobile home that typically has even less insulation. So I'd put it out there that that's something that does inspire me a ton. Being able to put forward, let's say, buildings and structures that, let's say, someone buys it and then they can give it to their kids, and it's gonna still be in good shape and good standing, and allow for that, say, wealth creation in areas like this, which they typically don't have the chance. I mean, look, if you see around here in Southeast Ohio, there's a lot of mobile homes, there are a lot of pre-manufactured homes, And a lot of those, right, it's like, they have a 30-40 year lifespan. And so, it's like a one generation home, right? You can you if you're giving it to your kids, or your kids are inheriting, it's unfortunately a little bit more of a liability than an asset, right? So I think that at the moment we're honing in on, let's say, on those aspects. And as we grow, as we get more projects, and as let's say that technology becomes a little bit more common, there's things that can really help us to hone in on that affordability piece. And if there was one thing that would really change the way that we do things, is the material, right? The material that we're using is quite expensive because it's a specialized concrete 3D printing material. And so we're working with local concrete batch plants to see if we can create our own mix, kind of leveraging again some of these resources that I've mentioned, and grants, in order to develop our own mix so that we can get those costs down. So we're working towards that.
I love that. You hit on actually I think maybe two of my questions all at one time, with the idea of the increased durability of your products, as well as the cost savings and energy efficiency using more smarter technology. And then the huge one I think that you brought up was the build speed. Ohio is a ever growing, ever changing landscape, and so the idea for efficient, reliable construction, I think, is definitely something that our is a really huge pain point, or pivot point, so to speak. And you're creating a really great solution in that, I think, with your technology. So not only is there the speed, the reduced waste, you mentioned the durability. I've seen just in my research leading up to today that those homes, like you mentioned, could last a lot longer than some of the traditionally built infrastructures that we've seen so far. Um, with that, you also brought up, of course, a lot of your use cases in the advocacy programs that you've worked on, and in the Habitat for Humanity and et cetera. Who is your ideal partner? Our previous speaker mentioned a lot about partnering with different ecosystems to drive the success of their innovative products, and municipalities, developers, nonprofits. Who's your ideal partner that could help to continue to advance Vitruvian's technology?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that we're still figuring out, like, who is that person that can benefit the most. But at a high level, it really comes down to developers, right? People that are interested in developing infrastructure projects is who we're interested in connecting with. And the benefit to that, or let's say like our value proposition, I think something that's very unique is, a lot of times these developers have, like, two options, right? Or the way that I see it, they have like for example, here in Athens, they can bring a big construction company from Columbus that's going to come in. They're going to build the homes, but then those people are going to leave the area and then go back to Columbus, right? And whereas we've been able to understand that by us coming into a community and then staying there, bringing advanced machinery, training local people, and then kind of growing a node locally, we incentivize that local economic development, right? So the dollars stay in the local area. The people there that are local are the ones getting the jobs, are the ones getting paid. And so I see us being able to connect specifically with developers or people that are interested in doing infrastructure development projects that have maybe an interest in let's say strengthening that community, right? And when it comes to geography, we are focused on rural. So we like the idea of paying attention to rural America. I mean, this area, for example, was such a booming mining town in the 80s, and it has lost a lot of it, a lot of population, just because of the declining mining. And so being able to come to an area and then bring a new technology, being able to bring new opportunities, something that this area like really needed, and I'm excited to kind of replicate this in other rural areas.
Oh, thank you again. I know that we are just a hair over time. Thank you all, of course, for joining us today. And Stefano, thank you again for your time this morning, and your insights about Vitruvian's innovative efforts as well. You all have an opportunity, of course, to meet with us again next week. As I mentioned before, we will have guests from AFRL and experts from U.S. Air Force SBIR to speak about both of those resources and organizations. And we would hope that you use the link in the chat to access the registration for that. And that said, we will see you all next week.
Thank you, Deja. Appreciate it.